Hello, everybody, and let's exit to port. It is currently the 29th of July, and nobody was surprised. It's also 18:37 in the evening, Central European summertime. It is a Friday, and normally I'd be in the middle of starting up a stream together with Mr. Cthulhu and getting into some sort of shenanigans, and you, Mr. Grumbles the Dwarf, my honored co-host, would normally be taking some sort of a break. Like, you've had a lot of breaks on Fridays.
Yeah, I've gotten into a new schedule of just taking some downtime Friday, because Saturday, Sunday tends to be like, 10, 12, 15-hour accidental streams. So Fridays have been quite good for me to have a bit of a rest.
Yeah, so you now have Mondays and Fridays off. I like that. It's good. And of course, Mondays you take completely digitally off, usually, at least.
Yes, I usually do. We won't talk about this week's Monday, where I spent the day installing Windows and setting up a second PC.
Yeah,
well, we will talk about
that, because, and we probably shouldn't talk about the one before that, because I do remember sending a message saying, "Enjoy your digital day off," and he's like, "I'm in Atlas."
Yeah.
And then I watched some people role play in Atlas, and what do you know? There's Pete. Okay, aka Grumbles. But it's good. No, by all means, take the day off the way you want to. Like, if, especially for us streamers who do have a tendency to make the hobby our own job, taking the time to play the games that we want without worrying that there's a stream looking at us and just enjoying doing what we want is really nice. So yeah, no, if you're a streamer, take some time off, play your favorite game without worrying about being the best at it. Derp around. Speaking of derping around, welcome to World of Warships.
Hey.
We played some Warships earlier in the Grumbling.
Yep.
And it was a good day. I had a lot of fun.
Yep, it was a good day. I had a lot of fun too. It was nice to mix it up with the tell the folks about how you kind of organized our rotation of ships. I liked it.
Yeah, so how we normally do it, of course, is that we three, me, Grumpy, and Grumbles, when we get into the division, we let the division order kind of settle it, so that whoever's on top in the division chooses first, and then the next one, and then so on and so forth. However, the other day I was watching Andy the Cupid play, and he was doing the whole thing where he played whatever he got sunk by, or if he didn't get sunk, he played whatever came lowest down on the list, with exceptions to subs and CVs, because he's not a fan of it. But so I thought, you know what? Let's do that. So we jumped into, I think our first match was a tier 5.
Yep.
And then we just kind of, oh, dear God. Stop fiddling with toys, Tiger. It's a podcast. Be serious. All right, that's my ADHD coming in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he played with that, and we started out in a tier 5, and I thought that very quickly we would end up on tier 10. But not until like the very last few games were we at tier 10.
Yep.
And I had a lot of fun, because suddenly I'm playing ships I don't normally play. And of course, like, if you end up in like a Kotovsky, then I need to find something that can help you out in a good way. So yeah, no, it was an excellent way of doing it. Suddenly you're out there playing a completely different ship you haven't played in ages, and it's fun.
It was fun. It was very refreshing. I thought it would be a little bit more kind of frustrating, like, but I want to do this or I want to play that. But actually, it was very good to kind of rotate, and we did it in a very simplistic manner. If we didn't have the specific ship, we just looked for some kind of relatively close comparable ship. So it could be a slightly different tier, slightly above or below or whatever, but something that had the kind of characteristics and perhaps gimmicks, style of play of the one that we were intending to play, and it was good.
For instance, I got killed by a Chevauche, but I haven't unlocked that yet. So then I jumped into Toulon. It's, of course, a tier lower, but it's a very similar ship, same forward-facing guns and everything. So yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I'll probably be doing that again. And I think if you do that while you're solo, you're probably going to have an even bigger variety. Because the times that it wasn't my turn to pick, then I got to pick whatever suited me best.
Yeah.
First. And we won 10 out of 15 today.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. And the best thing was most of the matches as well today. I mean, it's coincidental in relation to the picking, I guess, but a lot of them were quite challenging and good comebacks, or necessity to defend the flank, that kind of stuff. And we did it well. There was a lot of teamwork today as well. Obviously, I apologize to you and Grumpy for that. We'll fix that next week. But it was a really jolly good experience.
No, it was a lot of fun, and something at least I noticed today, was that there's still a lot of camos out there. People are still using them. Not everybody has sold them for credits, and I'm really happy to see that. Because, well, our first topic is, what do we think of the cosmetics and economics split? What's your first thoughts, Grumbles, after having played around with it a bit?
Yeah, so, once you get over the initial day one kind of confusion, where is everything? What's all these buttons I got to press and all the kind of old dwarf things? It hit me really positively. Like, reading it and that, it was kind of like, okay, whatever. Didn't really sink in fully. But once you see it in practice, I like most of what they've done with the UI. In fact, I like all of it in principle, in concept, and there's a couple of things I think they could adjust the implementation, make some of the flag bits a bit larger and more easy to read and stuff. But overall, I think really, really positive change. It actually has hit me like way more positively than I thought it would, in terms of like, I really now can. I know it's like the obvious thing, but like I really can just use whatever camo I want, or even no camo, and it doesn't matter. That one where you forget or you click battle quickly and whatever, it doesn't matter anymore, and it still takes a little while getting used to. Like you say, naked ship, and you're like, oh, naked ship. You Muppet, and then you're like, oh no, it doesn't matter, I'm the Muppet, and so it's kind of cool. That's my first take on it. What about you?
I really like it. It has, for me at least, it has simplified how I go about grinding my ships, because it's not the camo and then the signals anymore. It's just, okay, what kind of economy am I looking for on this? Is it a premium ship? Well, then I'm usually looking for credits, free XP, and commander XP. Is it a tech tree ship that I'm actively grinding? Then I'm usually looking for commander XP and ship XP. Because those are the four. You have credits, ship XP, commander XP, and free XP. And I honestly think they've split it up very nicely. It's easy to understand. The only thing they haven't made easy is where to find it. and I heard a lot of people say that in the start too, like, because if you sit down with it and you're like, okay, where's the economy stuff, and without looking too hard at the list over on the right side where you don't normally look when you choose a ship, that's where it is. Like right underneath your commander, you'll find a tiny bit there, and it was like, and I actually had a little conversation with Bugsy yesterday, who used to be in NACC but now works for Wargaming in North America, and I told him that it could be a good idea to get this into one screen, have it as a ready room where you do everything for a ship. Like you unlock something for XP, let's say new guns, Yeah, it's in the ready room.
Mm-hmm.
You want to equip signals? It's in the ready room. Want to equip camo? Ready room. Captain? Ready room. Everything in one place.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of unused screen space in that little I think it's called externals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
whatever. Right? The room where you put all the signals.
Yep.
And like put everything in one.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Yeah, it's a good idea." Now I want to mention, even if Bugsy works for Wargaming, that does not mean it's going to happen. Just thought it was a good idea. Don't get into a big thing about Bugsy said it was true. No, he
But
just
I
said,
heard it in a
that's a cool idea."
podcast. It must be true.
Yeah, there you go. But no, like it's so good because if I don't want to ship XP on something,
Mm-hmm.
I can choose not to bring it. If
Mm-hmm.
I have a captain that I do not need more commander XP on, although that's a different thing when you overfill and whatever, then I don't have to use commander XP on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice. I am, however, wondering how will this impact a new account? Like how many of these boosters do people get? How often do you pick them up? How easy are they to obtain?
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can't really say that yet because there aren't really a whole lot of new accounts out there as far as I know. At least with new players that we get to talk to. If you're a new player and you have a new account, please reach out to us. We actually want to talk to you about this.
Yeah, I think I had 1 or 2 signing up in the last couple of weeks. We'll see what they think of it.
So what's your favorite camo now that you can use anything?
Well, you raised that before we were having our editorial meeting. And
sorry, I forgot to say A.
Yeah, I know. I was so disappointed, but I thought I'll just gloss over it. It's fine. I was doing the finger guns, even though we're not using cameras. I think I still. I mean, I haven't gone through the whole lot, but we were clicking our way through a few today when you pointed out a couple of like the red ones, and I like, I'm a big sucker for like deep reds and shades of red and stuff like that, and obviously gold and green. I love those kind of colors. So I do like a lot of the variations that they've got. Some of the simpler ones, like the single sort of tone, are quite cool. Some of the darker ones, although there's like, I was clicking through a few greens today, and I don't know if it's just my vision or age or whatever, but I was like, there's this green and this green and this green and this blue, and I clicked on all 4 of them, and I was like, that's basically 4 duplicates of like the same thing, to my eye at least. But yeah, it's cool. One of the cool things is I like the way they visualized it with the smaller squares. They could be possibly a bit bigger, but it's kind of smooth. A lot of the UI stuff that's come in seems to flow more efficiently than the old UI that used to lock up, just when you looked at your mouse, it would lock up. There's still a couple of areas like that in the UI, but some of the new stuff, at least when you're staying within those areas, seems quite smooth. And it's just kind of, I'm not trying to not answer the question, but it's kind of fun just to click through and see all those different ones now. I still really like some of the more striking ones, like they did the German camos with the reds and the blacks and stuff.
Yeah.
I like the and I guess I still like some of my old classics, things like sharks camos and but other than that, I don't know. What about you? What are you liking? Oh, sorry, special mention to Blutenham, community member and moderator over with Tiger. Thank you, Blutenham, because every month you save me from having to ever look at Frosty Fir Tree with the camo adjustment file that you give me.
It is true, and it is a very nice adjustment because it makes the horrendous green blue thing that really doesn't fit with the rest of it a nice calming kind of darker yellow orangey tone, and it's really nice. It's really nice. It is. But for my sake, I like you mentioned, the black and white and red one of the German one is really cool. I like that one. As long as they're kind of kept simple, but but consistent, if that makes sense. I like it. So I've ranted about Fields of Tuscany before, because on certain ships, it makes me physically unwell looking at it. Like you get that. Ew! What am I looking at? I don't want. I don't want to look at this. You know, you just it's that weird feeling inside your brain.
Yeah.
But I think it was the Viridian one, one of the lighter green ones that we looked at today. Very nice looking on certain ships. I wish that the black one, the was just more clean. But it's also a very big favorite of mine. But yeah, that, and I think maybe the Gamescom black one. That is probably one of my favorites. It just looks very cool. And I'm looking forward to see what else they are going to throw at us now that we're talking a different way of getting them and a different price point. And yeah, maybe not all of them need to be permanent. Like maybe if you get like a really cool one, like the Constellation one. Yeah, the Constellation one is also one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Dark blue with the star signs, the constellations on. That is really nice. But if you get a couple of those where you know that they're going to be limited, it's like, I'll put them on for a special match. You know, last one of the day or whatever. You know, that's something that could be cool for us streamers at least.
One that you showed me today that I haven't seen for a while was the subscriber camo one. So it might be a bit more exclusive or harder to get hold of and that kind of thing, but that looked actually really sharp in the new graphics. So
that's something that actually we could talk about regarding that right now. Because the new subscriber stuff from CCs, we as CCs, we get codes that we can give away to our subscribers and followers. And so then the new camo codes, they actually give a few things. The new camo codes give 5 of the subscriber camouflages, but they also give 10 bonuses, 10 economic bonuses of 200% XP, 200% commander XP, and 600% free XP. Whereas the CC container, which also has 50 contributor follower camouflages in them, like it has no economic bonuses with it. And I really do think that one of the big things before the change with the CC crate was if you get 50 of those, they had really nice bonuses on them. I think it was pretty much the second best camo out there for overall bonuses.
Right. Okay.
So they still have 35 160% credits, 35 800% XP, 35 800% commander XP. But when you get the 50 contributor camouflages, it's like, okay, what do I do with these? I don't even know if you can sell them.
Interesting.
But it would be nice to kind of, I don't know, maybe slash it in half and give some bonuses with that, because I do believe that the old CC containers had the dragon flags. Yes, they did. They had the dragon flags in them, which is why we have the 35 of the credits, XP, commander XP, and free XP things dropping. But yeah, no, I think I might have to boop somebody about that. Because I feel like it's just, yeah, you might as well give them credit in that case, because I don't really see people buying camouflages for credits anymore.
I mean, if that's, maybe it's an oversight or, you know, whatever.
Could be.
Definitely worth asking the question, though, I think.
Yeah, it's just, oh, yeah, you got 50 camos now. Hooray?
I mean, I suppose the bottom line is you could still save yourself having to buy some camos at some, you know, I mean, we're talking a lot about, as longer term players, we got like tons of these camos stored up, true. Right? So, yeah.
And there probably are others out there that think, just like me, I still want to make my ship look pretty. I do.
I like some, there's certain ships, I think the North Carolina's one that always I think of. There's certain ships I think that look pretty cool with like naked steel. And I've actually in the past, like talking a couple of years ago, whatever, I've just had a casual thought like, oh man, it'd be kind of cool if I could just play the ship looking like this. And, you know, like maybe I didn't have that many camos or the ones I liked at the whatever were out. And it's like, you know what, if I could just have this naked steel look, but not suffer for it mechanically, be really cool. And yeah, I guess now that's just the way it is.
And here we are. You know, there are certainly some ships that do very much fit the normal kind of gunmetal gray look. And for some odd reason, it seems to be mostly the Americans, because I enjoy that look on the Monty and the Iowa too, yeah.
Yep. I mean, they're just mighty fine looking ships, I guess. So
they are indeed. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. Gonna notice something there. Gonna do that. Nobody saw anything. There we go. It's fine. Don't worry about it, anybody. It's fine. Don't worry. Fine. I should probably stop talking about it, or people will start looking for it.
Yeah, it's fine. No one noticed. It's fine. It's fine. It's just this is the bit where, like, if you had a production team, there's somebody there, you know, rolling their arm around. You know what I mean? Just waving at you, like, carry on, move on, move on, move on.
Production team?
Yeah. What?
We are the production team.
We are.
Speaking of production teams, I hear a rumor that Mother Trudy is currently in the studio.
Oh.
I'm just going to point that out there.
That sounds awesome. I look forward to hearing about it.
Some certain front person that does the vocals, who also seems to be a moderator over on my channel, allowed me to listen to one of the songs. Oh my god!
So as long as you don't mention it on your podcast, don't.
But yeah, no, just mentioning that in a passing glimpse of thought or whatever. I don't know. My brain's not on today.
A moment.
Anything else going on in the World of Warships?
I mean, I've kind of been enjoying playing ranked to get lots of steel, because even though it went to tier 10, I remembered, I was like, hang on a minute, it was tier 9 a minute ago and I had loads of fun. It was almost illegal. And I was like, what was going on? I was like, oh yeah, I was playing the Ruprecht. I was like, oh, it's tier 10 now. Oh, wait a minute, what's this big Schlieffen ship I've got? Oh. So yeah, I've been having quite a lot of fun and brawling and just getting into that. So nothing new, nothing special. Just thought it's worth mentioning, because it's just those ships were just made for a small, close engagement kind of thing. And with the torps and the hydro, they're just, I can't tell you how many destroyers that I've actually just kind of
stomped on.
Just stomped on, just been like, oh, you're a ship with torpedoes. Well, I'm a much bigger ship with torpedoes and hydro and
the secondaries.
Yeah, and all the secondaries and anyway, bye. It's been very you don't survive all that well, but you don't have to. The damage has already been done. So that's my top tip for anyone grinding their steel out. Get yourself in the Schlieffen line and have at it. It's hilarious.
Schlieffen is so much fun. Absolutely love her. But you know, ranked, aka randoms with fewer people and steel.
Yeah. And no submarines.
And no subs. There you go. Speaking of no subs, what do we think of Twitch these days?
Nice segue. Wow. Wow.
Bam!
Bam! Well, I guess that's us two struck off the ambassador list for next year. Dang it. I am enthusiastic about a lot of the changes and developments, and some of their communication getting better. Not that there's bad communication, but some of the communication that I think needs a lot of drastic improvement is just, you know, let us know what's going on. Communicate things better. Also, stop confusing everybody about the advert thing. We're going to talk about the advert thing in more detail, but stop pinging everybody. I must have got another like 5 emails. Adverts. And then in the alert thingy, you know, the little icon on the Twitch notifications on the Twitch website and all that, and log on to that. It's like, oh my goodness, loads of notifications. There must be something going on. And it's just like, ad incentive soon. Don't forget your ad incentives. Did we mention advert incentives?
Did you know that you now get 55% of them?
Stop. Yeah.
So, whereas creators have said for a while now, please give us more revenue for subs and bits. And and then they go, how about more revenue for the ads? Yeah, where you make less money. Yeah. No,
and annoy your viewers more. Yeah.
Because if you give us more money from the subs, then we are more likely to go, hey, if you subscribe, you get no ads. See how that works, Twitch? More is more for everybody.
It's almost like they might make more money if they go heavy on advertising. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Unless they go too heavy, because then they're going to lose out.
Yep.
I for one, I think ads are a good way of supporting a channel for free. I do think so. However, forcing that channel to pump out so many minutes of ads per hour for a full month, that's what gets me. The ad incentive program works on, for those who don't know, it works on a basis of looking on your averages, how many hours you streamed last month, and so on, and then they kind of combine that together for an incentive to you. My incentive for August is fun compared to what my incentive for July was. My incentive for July was roughly $100 to run 3-minute ad once every hour and stream 64 hours. I'm okay with that. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too little. Like, it's just a nice amount. However, my ad incentive for August was 56 hours streamed, 3 minutes per hour, $45. And that's not something I'm going to go for. Now, again, like we said last month when we talked about this, I'm not going to ask anybody else to divulge their information. I'm just going to point that out there. I'm willingly showing this, although I probably shouldn't. But I'm just going to point out how this works. So the reason why my ad incentive has gone down, and the reason why I'm not going to say okay to this, is because $45 for that amount, for pretty much the same that I did this month, is not worth it for me. And it's not worth the hassle I feel for the viewers.
Yeah.
And it's just, I get it, Twitch, but can we have a conversation regarding this, please?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it really, really sucks that they force it to be like the tied to the automated system. We touched on this, I think, a little bit last time, but now that we've got like a month of experience under our belts, as it were, and the next incentive offers, because these are like a rolling month to month thing. It's interesting. Like on my side, the numbers, it makes sense from a financial point of view, just neutrally observed, because it's like, I don't know, five plus times the volume for me, and I'm obviously streaming full time, and I've got like, I don't know, 175 hours plus or whatever in the last period, and so on and so forth, right? So the problem is obviously that because it's tied to the automated thing, so it's got to be the hourly, and like you can make certain adjustments, but they're very limited. We talked about that last time out, but it just sucks that that it's tied only to the automated system. Why not say, look, this is the split, and that's how that part of it's going to work with the money aspects, and then these are your options in terms of whether you go automated ads or not automated, or every second hour and that kind of thing. And at the end we just tally it all up, because it all just runs through mulch through computers and spreadsheets, and then you get a number, and then either that number is working for you or it's not. And then especially in the infancy of this thing, then we get the chance to see it and then make adjustments along, and in theory not be punished because we were evil and we didn't go with the monthly or whatever, with the hourly. But the fact that it's all tied to that automated system, where I'm feeling the pain is kind of on behalf of my viewers, and for me as well, it's a stress, because we have the streamer bot, so we have the announcements, and that's really good, and that helps really a huge amount. So kudos to the streamer bot team and the API teams or whatever. But still, the fact remains that that's a lot of ads, and it's really weird. I don't like it. It works for me in the community because we're using that as part of our pledge to put 69% of all revenues, like, to the channel into charitable causes and stuff. But even then, it irks me a lot because I just want people to be able to relax and enjoy without being hit by ads. And then there's other stupid aspects, like there's no seemingly no volume normalization at all. So people will be like, what I do a lot of the time is nice chilled stuff, calm, having some fun RP or whatever's going on, and then all of a sudden it's like, blah blah blah, buy this Pixel phone, blah blah blah, and people are suddenly woken up, shaken out of it. And that, and I'm obviously joking a little here, but there's a serious side to that. People are coming here to relax and be calm, whether it's work lurk on the one side, or just to simply, they're having a hard time, tough day, trying to relax, trying to get to sleep, whatever it may be. And then they're in a nice, happy, calm, relaxing state for what we do, and all of a sudden it's like, blah blah blah, here's a Samsung thing you didn't need, kind of thing. And so and there's nothing we can really do about that at all, right? We can't choose the ads, we can't influence like very much about them whatsoever. So that side of it I find very frustrating.
This is where sorry to just jump in there,
right.
I had a thought. This is where it would be nice to have a different kind of ad. You know how StatsBloke has his Huel sponsorship, where he has graphical ads that pop up from time to time, where they kind of slide in on the side. There's no noise, there's nothing, there's just this nice little graphic that shows up, and it says Huel, buy this, and these are the effects, and then it slides out again. Being able to choose between the different ads should equate to a different level. Not the amount of minutes, but that's how simple that is. So if you, like us, sometimes run a very chilled out kind of session, you just want to hang out, like on Live from the North, Turtles and Chill, you, Grumbles, whoever runs a really chill atmosphere, you'd go for the silent ads, maybe get a little ding,
Yep.
Then, okay, here's an ad for such things, and then you go back to watching whatever.
I agree.
And I think another thing that could be nice for this in regards to the ad incentive and how to split it up is that, let's say they give me an ad incentive that, okay, your ad incentive for August is $250. And the way you get those $250 is if you run X amount of ads. Based on your previous month, we saw that you ran 52 ads in total. So if you run 52 ads this month, you will get that. And then that chunk of money is split into those ad breaks, where you can say, okay, I'll have one break now, and then we'll run an ad. And then later on, I'll have one break now, and we'll have an ad. And then if you miss out on, let's say, 3, then that's directly deducted from your total, or whatever. I don't know if that could work, or
quite possibly. Not, I think it goes to what you said before, and I think that's really the key to it. Is let's have a dialogue. Let's talk about what the options are, because in a roundabout way, what they're doing at the moment is we would obviously as partners never suggest this, but people are just hovering over their M key and hitting mute as soon as ads come on, because they're like, A, they don't want to be deafened, and B, they don't want to watch 9 adverts in a row for whatever thing, So actually, in a roundabout way, whatever they think short term, mid to long term, really all Twitch is doing is training everybody to no longer listen to and or watch ads, because people will just step away. And hopefully, they'll have the patience and understanding that they won't abandon the streamers,
And this should be nothing new to people, because this is what mainstream TV has done for so many years. How many people do you know that actively sit through any sort of ads on TV anymore?
Yeah.
When an ad comes on, you flip to a different channel.
Yep.
And then that ad is completely pointless. It's meaningless.
Yep.
Same thing will happen on Twitch.
Yeah.
People will like mute or find ways of blocking them. There are so many browsers with built-in stuff now. You don't even have to use any sort of plugin anymore. Like, there are active browsers out there meant for gamers and people who watch streamers that will block these ads, and people will start installing these because of all of these ads.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is
the point's gone.
Yeah, like you said, it's like the old school would have been switching channel, and here it's not switching channel because the whole platform's affected. They're switching website. So people, as you said, they either find a workaround for it technically, or they will just literally move away and say, I can't be bothered with that right now. I might watch the VOD later, or I'll just go on YouTube or Spotify, and I'll just do something else. So, I do think that they need to learn and adapt it. Whether they will, time will tell. But there's some frustrations, and we could call them teething trouble as well. I know that some things are complex to implement, and they're under financial pressure and all the rest of it. We get it, but I just think there seem to be some fairly straightforward, more effective ways to do this together with the people creating all the content, and make it into more of a win-win. At the moment, it feels more like a bit of a tug of war.
If only Mr. Bezos, sorry, boss, would not spend so much money on his rockets anymore. I feel like that could be a good idea, Put some back into your company, man. Yeah, rocket-loving CEO. Almost said something bad about Mr. Bezos. Let's not do that.
Yeah, let's not. This is not the first political episode, but I think there's definitely some good that can be done there. It's good that we're learning and we're going through a bit of the pain of the teething process. Let's just hope we can see some adjustments and some dialogue sooner rather than later.
I would also like to hear what more viewers think of this. Like what would be acceptable in ways of ads for anyone who's viewing? And I'm not just looking for the outright no, nothing. No, let's be fair and acknowledge the fact that Twitch is a company and that they need ways of creating revenue that isn't solely based on subs and bits. Because a lot of streamers also encourage the use of donations, and donations, nothing will go to Twitch. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword there. So if you really love your streamer, by all means, sub to them, give them bits, and donate, and all of those things. But beside the point, but Twitch is a company, and they need to make money, and ads is a very efficient way of doing that. And I will give Twitch kudos for this. They are very good at finding good ad partners. They seem relevant for gamers and streamers. They seem relevant for people that are into tech and nerdy and whatnot. So they're good in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're still, like you say, teething problems. So yeah. One thing that I know that they've implemented, and I can't really see any teething problems with at the moment myself, is the new shared ban list.
Yes.
I love this feature. I love this idea. And actually, yesterday I had my first encounter with it, where somebody who shall remain nameless came in on a raid, and as somebody was asking in chat for my opinion on what premium to go for, it was the Iwami or the Palmern, I think. Or no, the Kearsarge. Those were the two that the person wanted to see.
Right.
And I was sitting there talking and explaining a few things about the general pros and cons of them, how they work. And then I see I have a DM on Discord from one of my mods. I look in and he's like, "Hey, you should probably be aware that this user is banned over on somebody that you collaborate with." And he's talking in chat, and he thinks that he's getting through. and then I kind of looked over on my dashboard because I use Chatty, and it didn't show up in Chatty at all. So I was like, okay. And then I looked at the dashboard, and sure enough, there's many messages about one of the ships and how it's crap and you shouldn't buy it and blah 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 blah, and just being a really negative Nancy. And for that, I absolutely love this feature because I got to talk freely, straightforward, without a lot of ifs and buts and yelling and nagging in chat from this one super annoying voice. And I got to be the streamer, you know? I didn't have to sit there and ignore somebody because of that. Now, I would love to see, like, in the information that I see, I see nothing that shows me why this user was banned. I just see that they were banned.
So is that because of when they were banned, somebody didn't add that info? Because
it could be.
I think my mods were saying that they actually see the info. We've been we've been getting better at that and filling them all in. The mods have done great.
Yeah.
So I don't think that feature was there all along, or if it was, it wasn't so obvious or something. And then once we kind of spotted it, we were like, huh, That's handy. And the mods that we were talking about in our team meeting, and they just start putting this info in because it just makes it super, super straightforward for the next one. Coming along, someone comes in a different shift, or when the other mod who banned them wasn't there, or we use it as well for like monitored user stuff as well. If we've got people that we think, these people are, they're okay, but there's something not quite fitting here, and we just kind of put them on the watch list. Yes, listeners, that's what we do, because we have to keep everyone happy and safe. So deal with it.
We do. and the nice thing about this shared ban list is there's two modes.
Mm-hmm.
So one is that everybody goes on a monitor list, or they are limited so that they can't speak in chat, and only mods and the streamer sees it.
Mm-hmm.
Or they will show up in chat, but mods and streamers will be notified that okay, this guy's limited for being on a ban list or at somewhere else's place.
Yep.
The only issue I can kind of see with this, the thought kind of struck me, is the judgment. Like, if somebody comes in to my chat and has been banned somewhere else, I'm like, okay, how does that make me feel about them? Do I know why? Do I understand why? I don't see everything. I don't necessarily have the full point of this. And I might not agree with the reason for banning. Let's say you ban somebody. I might not agree with that reason for banning, but at the same time, I see that you've banned them. So like, how will that make me kind of go, hold on? Why is this guy a bad egg? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I think there is a risk element to it, and I see two parts to this, and we have to watch how it develops. One is the sort of what they call like cancel culture type thing or whatever, where you get a bit of a bandwagon going, and it's like, oh, well, these 3 people I know have banned this person, so they must be bad, and you just auto banning or whatever, right? And I think I agree with you on the judgment. There's one element of it which is, people can make mistakes, right? So you might get banned. There is an appeal process. We look at them. Funnily enough, we had one recently where somebody tried to circumvent their ban by making another account that was like 1 letter different. And then for whatever reason, they appealed their original ban as well, more or less in the same time space. And we're like, that's weird. What are the chances of that? And we reached out to them, looked into the logs and everything, and we were like, okay, this is why it was, why it got banned in the first place, and whatever. Can you just let us know your position on this topic again, right? At which point they just went full like troll, insulting, just really like full horrible mode. Like, I don't even want to like mention it, but like real nasty stuff, like really nasty. And it was like, thank you for confirming our ban records are in good order. And then we caught this second account as well. So I think I suppose the point where it might be worrying is, because always on the surface it looks like a good idea, is if they ever implement this in some sort of automated algorithm where it's like, well, you've been banned on, these 5 channels, therefore you're auto banned in that category or something. And I can see different, it's about the nuance, isn't it? And the granularity of it is, I suppose the one way is like, well, it's better to be protecting and safe because trolls are going to be trolls. And the other side of it is like, yeah, but what if they're being trolled somehow? What if things were just taken out of context, or someone was having a bad day and that's how they got banned? So yeah, we'll have to see how it develops. The first impression though is very positive.
Very, very much so. Very much. I like the fact that it makes the job of the mods easier.
Yep.
Where they can instantly see, hold on, this is somebody we should be aware of. Yep. And can keep an eye on them and see, will they fit in, will they not? And that way, it truly is a great feature. It is. So, yeah, prejudice, however, is a thing that we all need to be aware of. And it's like, I don't know, I might be banned on some channels where I pop up in somebody else and they're like, wait, why is Tiger banned? What did he do? It's probably for a bad dad joke or something. I don't know.
If you got banned anywhere, I would imagine the only thing I could ever think of it would be that hour of uwu. Where people like, no, we just can't take the risk.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's okay. I'm okay with that one. That one's fine. I accept it. This will be my just penance. No, it's one of those things where it's going to be interesting to see the development of it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yep.
And speaking of development,
yes,
you've had some development in your streaming setup.
I have indeed.
Yeah.
A nice segue. I like that.
Yeah, we're getting better.
Yep. Yeah. I took the plunge. Also, the fact that I happened to have a second, slightly older PC that was theoretically still in working order, but needed to be kicked a few times and and taught a Windows installation lesson. Yeah, don't you look at me like that. There's a reason you're switched off right now. Be quiet in the cheap seats. No, yeah, I was sort of struggling a bit because I've been running some games that are like, they're either pretty heavy load or they are badly optimized or a bit of both. Yeah, Arc Atlas. Yeah. Fart.
Sorry. Something's weird in my throat.
Weird. Yeah. So and they between that and I love OBS to bits. But it looked like OBS seems to be fine and not the culprit. We had a little dip for a while with OBS where the Chrome browser extension was being really weird and whatever that, I don't know what that was, but it also just magically went away without an OBS update. So I actually downgraded a point version and I've stuck with that ever since, and the problem was still there but not as bad, and then it just went away. So whoever fixed that, thank you. Probably Google's fault. Anyway, but what I was noticing was that even though the load appeared to be something that the rig could handle, I mean, it can handle it. It wasn't like the PC was shutting down or something, but it was like hot, and we were having a heat wave, and we'll get to that in a minute. And it was like, okay, I got to do something. And then thankfully I managed to kind of resurrect this old rig last Monday, and very nervously, very tentatively set up the NDI sort of stream from one rig to the other on the local network, and went live on Tuesday with it, and was like, oh god, this is going to be awful. It's all going to die on me and be terrible. And yeah, the rig held up, and the stream held up, and everything was fine. So I'm very, very happy with it, because now I can actually play badly optimized games like Atlas with some decent graphics settings. Maybe not the top end, because they're still a mess code-wise, but without my PC melting, which means also in summer I don't melt, which
exactly.
I like.
No, I made the switch to a 2 PC setup quite some time back. And with NDI, and I think it was first when I started streaming The Division, because The Division was also very, very CPU heavy, and streaming is CPU heavy because of the encoding. And the major differences, my lord, being able to play the game in a stutter-free way and just kind of cruising by and enjoying everything and looking at all the graphical details. So pretty. I love it. And then just having the streaming PC kind of go la 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 la, and doing its thing without having a game run in the background. It's also really nice.
Yep.
So it's very, very good that we get this, and some people have asked about the pros and cons of it. The pros is, of course, that your gaming PC gets to do what it's supposed to do. Game. You get to enjoy the full spectrum of the game. Another pro is that if your gaming PC kind of goes, no, and Windows error, then the stream can still be up and running. The con is, of course, all depending on how you have the two PC setup. You use the NDI, which is a direct mirror. I use a capture card, which is technically a direct mirror, but I have my music, my chatty, my camera, everything else is hooked up to the streaming PC.
Right.
So I have slight input lag from the game PC to the screen. Like it's minuscule.
Yeah.
But I see the images on my screen a tiny bit later than it goes out to the stream. So it's a bit off there, and if you have the way I've set it up, it requires some technical equipment like a mixer or very heavy software to do that mixing for you. But if you're into gaming and you want to game fully and not just stream and have a real life stream, then a 2 PC setup it's gonna make a big difference.
Yep,
it is.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to maintain 2 computers and and all that kind of stuff, and and we'll wait and see when the electricity bills come in, but honestly, now that I've tried it and it seems reliable and all the rest of it, like very reliable. I've never been like a big hardcore gamer type thing, but I've grown more and more like attached or into the graphical elements, especially from the role playing, because the game is there to be a vehicle and to enhance that. And whilst it's great to use theatre of the mind, obviously it's somewhat harder to convey that story to people in some regards, in some circumstances. And so that's what the game gives us as a vehicle. And being able to just explore and enjoy these worlds, I mean, it's literally like, not quite night and day, but it was very significant when I did some testing, looking at Conan, for example, which is a beautiful looking game. And I was like, wow, I don't think I've had this game for a few years, and I don't think I've ever seen it look like this before. So, and even Atlas, bless it, with its horrible, horrible, horrible. I hope you're listening, Grape Shot. Horrible optimizations, right? And some of its assets are just really bland and all. But anyway, but even that game, when you're on the sea where you've got a nice sunset and that kind of thing, that game can still be quite beautiful, quite magnificent. And now I get to see it. So yeah, it's
and your viewers.
Yes, exactly. And that's what makes me the happiest of all of it, is now people can, because I guess in a way in my mind I was always kind of theater of mind and trying to imagine beyond what the visualization was, because these graphics are a bit bad, but I kind of got used to blocking that out, and just like, I'm not going to worry about that, and I'm going to really throw myself into the scene. And now there's still some of that, because again, horrible optimization, but for the most part, people can sort of see and experience. And when you're doing our immersive RP like we do in Atlas on Darkside, it's so incredibly important, because you want to convey that whole thing and draw people in, like a good TV show or a good drama or a good movie would do. It's about drawing people in and as well as being able to put myself in that. So super happy with the setup. So I would definitely give some different advice now, because I it's not that I've advised against it, but I've said I don't think you really need it. And now that I've seen the difference, again, I'm very fortunate to, from my previous employment, have been able to have these computers that I've got, and therefore And when I say that, I want to be clear, as in with my salary, I bought them. I don't mean that I took them from my former employer and retained them, just to be very clear. Was that a knock at my door? No. Hello? It's the
FBI,
PC police.
Open up.
It's the fun police. Yeah, I definitely think it could be worth it. Again, it depends what you're doing. And I think there may still be times where I want to do more chatting or a bit of artwork and stuff like that, and I'll just run it all on the one rig because it doesn't matter. But that's the beauty. And now I also have that kind of insurance situation as well, where if something does go pop, worst case scenario, you know, the other one's still there. So we'll see.
It's very nice to be able to do these things. And one thing that also happens when you're on a 2 PC setup, because encoding is heavy CPU, it'll do a lot of calculations before it tries to push this data out. It allows you to do that in a smoother way. So for a lot of people, they will be able to actually have a higher bitrate out, which when there's a lot going on screen, you want as high a bitrate as possible so that you don't get the pixelation when people turn or run or whatever. So that's another added bonus to that.
Yeah,
just want to point that out there. But I would like to say, for anyone who is doing this purely hobby, and streams once in a while, maybe 2 times a week, if you're like, don't there's no need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't jump into it. I'm lucky because I used to be full-time. I've been a gamer all my life, so I have a lot of extra hardware. I could do it easily. Like you said, you've had the extra hardware, but you are now full-time. But for, like, I honestly think for anyone full-time wanting to do this as more of a serious hobby and get into it, 2 PC setup is a big thing. And it's a very, very big step there. And one thing that can happen with 2 PC setups that I lived through in Oslo a few years ago, and sometimes live through whenever I close my door here in the office, is of course a heat wave. See these segues, man.
Yes,
these
good. It's beautiful. Right, you could say with that heat wave segue, you're on fire.
So we've had a question. I think it was from Lanimar.
Yes.
He was also the one who brought up the 2 PC setup.
Yes.
He asked, how do you deal with heat waves as streamers? I know how I dealt with it a few years ago, but let's have the most recent one. How have you dealt with this?
So this is quite complex. I'll try and do it as succinctly as possible. I guess the simple answer is very, very badly, with a lot of moaning and complaining. It was pretty awful. I'm using like air cooled devices, and ambient temperatures, and you know, the usual Europe heat wave, no aircon, in homes for the most part. And so it was just like, oh my goodness, this is awful. So when we were into like the high 30s, getting towards 40, nearly, that was pretty horrible. And then on top of that, while I was still on the single rig thing, again linked to that topic, it was that machine was going, oh, are you kidding me? Oh, help! So you know, I had the GPU chucking out 80 to 85 degrees. And that air's got to go somewhere, man, and it's going into the room that I'm sitting in. And I know people will be like, oh, just get long cables. And all these things can be solved, but in a way, but you know, money, time, having the facilities and space and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, when it and for something that's like, you know, a few days here and there, you're like, don't know if you want to go to all that trouble. So it was pretty rough. And now I've got 2 toaster boxes. Both of them running a lot cooler. Is it really a lot better? I don't know. It still gets pretty warm in here now, but yeah, I guess there's well, once I'm more confident, I'm pretty confident now in it, but once I'm like fully confident, I'm gonna, remote onto the other PC and just chuck this one in another room, and that will kind of solve that problem. So yeah, but other than that, I mean, on other topics like, making sure you're hydrating, making sure you're taking the breaks you need and all that kind of stuff. So, like, it's so obvious as well, but like so ridiculously important and so easy to kind of forget.
Yep.
I am very guilty of it, and I'm very appreciative of my mods and the community who don't overdo it, but they give the gentle reminders. Have you had a drink and that kind of thing. I do appreciate it. There's a reason we don't have a hydrate command, because I'm not a big fan of when people are like, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. That kind of thing can be incredibly annoying and stressful, actually, for streamers. So don't do that to your streamers, folks. Yeah, so that's really important. Little message that I wanted to include in this and get across is it's really so important, because you're sitting still a lot of the time. Even if you have a standing desk, you're still not really moving around and all that active and all that, and it's not really a very healthy, it's streaming isn't really unless you're in some sort of health and fitness category, but overall it's not really your super healthy pastime. So it's super important in the heat wave to try to do what you can. And also, and I'm really bad at this, so I'm not trying to be hypocritical, I'm just being honest, take a break sometimes. Like I took a break in the sense that I was like, okay, I've done like 7 hours, 8 hours, that's enough now. We're gonna, I'm not gonna do the 11 hours, 12 hours, whatever, because I'm just flipping exhausted and it's hot and all the rest of it. Honestly, take it from me as somebody who struggles to do this. Take a break. Know when enough is enough. It doesn't mean you don't love the community or whatever. It doesn't mean anything negative. It means literally the weather and the world is saying, hey, watch out or I'm gonna murder you. Take care of yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, I think this was in 2017. Europe was hit with a pretty bad wave too. That's when I was still living in Oslo. And I had a tiny apartment in a brick building from roughly around the 60s. And it was built to retain heat. Being a brick building, of course, when the sun hits it in the summer and is on it the entire day, it turns into an oven. So I had outside temperatures of 35 degrees. I had inside temperatures of 35 degrees.
Yeah.
And throughout the entire day, it didn't even dip because the air outside was getting heated by the buildings, and the buildings was keeping the heat during the night, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Yep.
So the way I dealt with it back then, this was before any fantastic hydrate commands and whatnot. I I built a swamp cooler. I took my clothes drying rack and I hung wet towels from it and let my fan pass through them and onto me. And that was pretty much the only way I could actually survive. One day it got so bad that I actually just went, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go soak my t-shirt and sit in front of the fan. That was the only way I could deal with it. It was insane. And one thing you say about the hydrate commands, do keep in mind that streamers are not trained monkeys. We're not there to do everything that you ask us to do. So if you get angry that we do not hydrate just because you said hydrate, how about you worry about yourself?
Yes.
And on that note, I want to point out that one of the most wholesome streamers out there, fantastic, caught some flack because of something she said now during this heat wave.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about Colo.
Mm-hmm.
She said that she would need some time off and so on because of the heat, and make sure that streamers take care of themselves and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And she caught so much flack because of it. And I'm like, what? Why? Why? So the tweet is from the 18th of July. She says, no stream tomorrow. Too hot, and this has really affected me. Receiving hate on the internet is not new to me. Unfortunately, I've experienced it a lot. But this was another level of targeted and explicit detail. If you have screenshots and details, please do not share them. And this was because she spoke up about keeping streamers safe in deadly heat. And suddenly she receives violent threats of that.
Wow.
There's no, like, why? How is one of the kindest people on Twitch receiving hate for taking care of herself and other streamers? Not just streamers, people. Let's remember, we are people first.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's hard to fathom, and I fully agree with your point. I mean, it's hard to imagine why anybody would ever have a go at Colo. But you know, beyond the fact that sometimes people just like to argue, or like the kids say, haters gonna hate or whatever. It's but also in particular when someone says, hey, you know, look out for yourself. Yeah, why that would turn into any kind of negativity is hard to fathom. It's, you know, sometimes you, and it's, you know, and also I don't mean this like in a dismissive way either. It's too easy to say, well, it's just the internet, isn't it? It's like, come on, this is, if that just happens to be the medium.
yeah.
So yes, there is that psychological element of like being hidden behind avatars and funny handles and things like that. But let's just be kind. And if you don't get it or you don't like it or whatever, cool. But that's on you. That's fine. And if you didn't want to see it, why are you following those tweets?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's like, it kind of blows my mind a little bit. But I feel very sad that happened. Whoever it was, in this case, it just happens to be somebody that we both respect and appreciate. And who is an incredibly kind and caring, and just because they are competent at vocalizing those kind of things and dealing with, you know, emotions and sharing, I think sometimes that's part of it as well, that those that lash out often have a difficulty with that. And I, you know, as always, I kill them with kindness. I hope they get whatever help and support they need, because there's clearly something not working out quite well for them, whatever it may be. And,
you know what I say? Fuck 'em. I'm jumping in the long ship.
Yeah, that's my way of kind of saying that, I guess.
I am with you on that one, because seriously, then somebody is taking their time out to make sure that others get the rest they need and take care of themselves, instead of melting in a heat wave and then getting backlash for it. Do better.
Yeah.
Do better, internet. And I actively pointed at my camera, even though I'm not on camera now. But I did the index finger point, like, do better. Yeah. Let people be people, and if you don't like it, move to the moon, please. No, I don't know how that's gonna solve anything. But don't be a you know.
Yeah, well, just don't lash out at people. Why would you? If you, like I said, if you don't get that message, fine, move along. it's not a message that's insulting or injuring anyone. It's a message of kindness and compassion, and you know. But it's anyway. It's just horrible that happened, and I hope that that doesn't have, because it has an effect, and it's not like you can just forget it. But I hope that I'm pretty confident that Colo is a strong and person, but you know, the fact that she needed to have a break from it, of course.
She had to set her Twitter to private for a while because of that. So.
Exactly. So
and that
you know,
says something.
Exactly. So anyway, you know, folks, go check out Colo. She's pretty darn awesome.
She is amazing. She is.
Yeah.
She is.
And be caring.
So many giggles over there. And yeah. There was something else that escaped my mind. Can't quite remember.
We'll be right back after this musical interlude.
No, wait, that's The Simpsons. Copyright. Copyright.
No. Oh. Oh, wait, I made it worse. Dang it.
Cletus.
This is now the episode title. Exited port, probably the last one.
Cancelled. There you go.
Yeah, cancelled.
There you go. Speaking of dang it, Cletus, we want to talk a bit about UI in games with heavy emphasis on building. Okay, I just see that I made another typo.
Dang it! Don't bring it up.
I have to. It's my ADHD. I have to kind of. There we go. Heavy focus on building. There we go. It's fixed now. It's not at all right above where I removed the hyphen earlier. Shut up.
No, not at all. What I don't get is how you managed to misspell focus and it wrote stiletto. That was pretty specific. I can't wait for Durac to like put a comment saying, I went back and rewatched that bit of the podcast on YouTube and it didn't say that. Actually, Grumbles, it said no.
Where were we? Oh, right. Yes. Building in games. This was a question from Mari. Where she says, your experiences and pros and cons of different game building UIs. So Eco, Conan, Raft, Valheim, Atlas, Ark, and so on. One that we both have been playing lately is Raft. And I gotta say, it's very easy to build in Raft. But the UI is a cluster. So the hammer having its own menu, and then some of the items is built from the book, and like, no, not from the book, but from a different menu. That's kind of confusing. And then there's the whole system of how do supports work. Because I've recently used the horizontal supports, and put them up, and like, now I can put in two floors next to. No, I can't. I can only put one. Why the support goes the entire way? Why can I only put one? It's kind of confusing. But it's very easy to understand where you're building, and it's very straightforward that way, and it's quick, and you just have to have the materials, and then you go bonk, done. That way I kind of like it. Eco. What's your take on Eco? Because I have a few thoughts there.
So
or by all means go for Raft first.
So like I enjoyed the hammer aspect on Raft. There's sometimes, like you said, specifically, there might be the one or the other bit where it's like, oh, that doesn't quite add up in my mind or whatever. But overall, I thought, okay, this is pretty neat actually. And funnily enough, before that, I watched the announcements and everything, the videos for like how they were going to change Conan, a game that I've fallen in love with the building of lately, mostly for this, more for the aesthetics than anything. But I was kind of like, ooh, a hammer, and and that kind of thing. This is kind of happened before I went back and played some Raft. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about that, because I like having all the bits and all that. But one of the things that sometimes got me with Conan was, I don't know how they're going to change this, where it was like all the different, like in Conan, one of the challenges is you need about 50 million tables to like make everything. A little bit like that in Atlas too. And that kind of annoys me, because it's like, I get it. I know, I see what you're trying to do, but can't we just have like a hammer or a table for everything and just say, okay, that's, if you want to be cute about it, you can, but otherwise, can we just have the things, please? Because, and that's partly because otherwise, we've seen this a lot in Atlas, you end up with like a mega room where like all the tables are in and stuff, and everyone just huddles in that one spot, and it's like, this is kind of counterproductive. So I'm really excited about I'm really excited about the hammer thing, having played Raft some more. As you said, there's a few bits where it doesn't quite work, but the general overall concept. So I'm super excited for what's going to happen in Conan if it's like anywhere near what they're describing in Raft. And one of the things I just kind of realized by accident, intuitively, was the middle button, like clicking the middle button and repeating or copying the shape that you're looking at, and that's what they're bringing into Conan. So I'm not going to get into any like, are they copying each other or kind of, that's nothing for me to worry about. But I like that general idea. As for one of the things that I find frustrating, and this links to then eco as well, but it's kind of common in a lot of these games, and I don't know how, or I'm hoping, I strongly suspect the hammer could be a big help for, and what I really loved about the eco thing is not having to have 50 million belt slots, or more realistically 5 or 8 or whatever, and then having to keep going into your inventory, grabbing a thing and putting this in slot 1. It's like, oh damn, I had that other thing in slot 1 and I needed that, and now I have to put that in slot 2, and juggling all of that stuff. That really gets annoying pretty quickly for me. And I think there's a mod in Conan. I've not actually looked in detail and used it, but I think there's a mod that helps you to actually, so you can kind of scroll wheel through, like if you've got a group or a category of items, you can kind of scroll through different types of those to make it more efficient if you're just doing creative building and stuff. So so I'm hoping that hammer is going to give us something like that, and I think that's the model that games probably will move towards and emulate or develop further, because like you said, once you got the bits in your pocket, as in the raw resources you need, it would be cool to be able to do that. The next thing is not to hog too much time, but just one before I forget it, is Arc and the S Plus mods for Arc, where they brought in amazing things, like my favorite being you can connect your inventory and all of the things within the radius to each other, so you don't have this thing of like, oh, I need to have 1,000 stone in my pocket and I can't walk. But it's like, no, there's a bench over there with all your stone you gathered yesterday with your dino. Bada bing, bada boom, you build the wall. I love that. So if we can get to a thing where it's like, for me, the holy grail, again, I'm not an expert builder, but would be, you've got your building hammer, and that has a radius perhaps, and that radius can encompass all of your various tables or collecting areas or storage bins or whatever, and then you can just kind of build to your heart's desire. And when it goes no, or gives you an error message, that means you've just used up that 10,000 stone you collected yesterday.
So the thing I kind of realized as you were talking was that Raft, the hammer, is literally for the external stuff, like your frame. It's the raft itself, and then everything else is stuff you put on the raft, anchor, so on, so forth. Like there's none of the bits on the hammer that has to do with how you steer. It's simply how it looks and how big it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And of course, repairing. And I kind of like that. And from the simplicity of it, it also reminds me a bit of Eco.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Eco, again, you have a hammer, you have a work hammer that you use to place down blocks that you've worked with.
Mm-hmm.
So hewn logs, ashlar, stone, whatever, anything that is prepared building material, you place down with a work hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that I would love to see in Eco is, like you said, the S plus stuff from Arc, where, okay, I have all of these building blocks in my shipping container that is right behind me. Allow me to access that directly from this, so that I don't have to go donk 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 back to the thing, and then donk 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 back to the thing, donk donk donk, and keep on going like that. Or at least allow me to say, right, I now have the first hammer. Okay, you can carry 10 things at any given moment. You now have a better hammer. You can now carry 25 million, whatever. But allow me a way of upgrading it, or allow me access to the inventory. Now Eco has a certain, like, Eco's not really a game. Eco is a teaching tool. Eco is a teaching tool about resource management, about rules, lawmaking, everything like that. It is actually a tool that was made for teaching. So how we use Eco as opposed to how it's meant to be used is a bit different. So it's maybe not necessarily the best place to kind of say, oh, let me just access inventory, because it is based on the idea that bringing something out of your inventory will cost you energy, and you have to go back and you have to maintain your hammer and everything. And so, but still, I would love to be able to see that in Eco. And I think one of the more frustrating games I've ever built in is probably Arc. Because my God, some of the pieces, like, how do you place supports? Why can't you place a support on a support sometimes? And where? And then if you do not have the S plus mod, and then suddenly you place something down, then, oh no, that was wrong. You can't just pick it up. You have to break it down, and then you lose material, and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
So more building games, or more games that have a lot of focus on building, need to allow you to just pick up a piece. If this is fully done, like it's a fully built piece of stairs or whatever, you should be able to pick it up. Dismantling something is a thing. It's not like if I bring a screwdriver and start dismantling my stairs, it's not like I'm going to suddenly lose a step because
So here's the thing, right? Which I think, like, going to my medieval dynasty experience, like, the limit on that was like that everything was prefab, so even though there were nice models and variety and everything, it was pretty cool. But it was interesting to me, very from an art roleplay point of view, because or an immersion point of view, because you literally, like, placed the next few planks, and you could see that going in, and to a certain degree. And I wonder if, like, as I'd love, and we've tried really hard this time. It's difficult, but I'd love to have, like, an immersive thing where it's literally like I'd love it to feel more rewarding building a thing than just simply placing that next block, as in that whole wall just goes in. I think it was the forest was a bit like that as well. You would you remember you'd place the frame and then you have to go and get some sticks. And you'd like, stick. Oh, I ran out of sticks. It's like 2 sticks short, so it's not quite a fully formed fence or whatever. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Scum actually has that.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that.
Yeah. So I feel like some of what we talked about, I was reflecting what you were describing, and I was thinking, I wonder if my desire for like this to focus on the aesthetics and the immersion is somehow taking some of the gamification and the game, distraction for the brain kind of aspect away from it. And then I was thinking, well, what if you could add some of that back in by doing it that a different way, by having watching the progress of your build. And then I thought about what you said with dismantling. It'd be interesting if you dismantled like bit by bit, or just say, I guess my ultimate would be, I'd love to be able to free build kind of like whatever I want, but also, and they have this in Medieval Dynasty, although I haven't progressed far enough to actually unlock or utilize this, but you can actually have a builder's hut and designate builders from your villages or whatever, and then if you say, oh, build 2 huts over there, you can either do it yourself or let them do it, or kind of collaborate in air quotes with your NPCs. And I thought, wouldn't it be really cool? Imagine you're doing Ark, and rather than saying, hey guys, could you go out and gather me 100,000 stone because I need it, imagine if you could, like, you do that part, but you'd send a work party out and everybody went and gathered, and then everybody came back and you started building piece by piece. And someone was working on the scaffolding frame, and someone else was helping to do some carpentry and put some flooring together, and someone else was working on some roofing tiles, and you could see it coming together. And then, people could just come and go with bits. I guess I'm thinking a little bit more like a top down or an isometric kind of like a God game, or a, tell your Sims what to do kind of thing. Played Sapiens recently, and that made me think a little bit like that as well. I imagine it could be super cool in like an Ark or Atlas type world where you're like building a building together collaboratively with people, and then watching that progress. And so not everyone would have to be like the master builder or have an eye for it, but they could all contribute and watch that building. Imagine the town hall being done, and it was like this huge effort that everyone had contributed. And it is, but it's so abstract and in the background that
like with the mutes in Ark, in Atlas, and the thralls in Conan. I honestly think that could work. Where you mentioned this master builder role, where you go in and you are the one planning how big it's supposed to be, how long is this wall supposed to be, and kind of like in the forest, where you say, okay, this is where this is going to be. The plans call for this many resources. Go out, you guys gather. You guys start getting the scaffolding ready, and having that as part of the NPC's role could also be cool. And then you could choose to go, okay, do I want to join the guys gathering right now?
Yeah.
And then you can do that, or do I want to help build the scaffolding or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's what they did in Atlas to kind of work around that. They sort of fudged it. Is they made these like NPC buildings, and you could put like a carpenter in it, and they would like be gathering woods and thatches and stuff like that. But it's all kind of just a radius thing, and it's just stuff magically appearing in the stockpile. The Medieval Dynasty is like the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's like superbly done, where they're actually walking around the farm, and there's only so much farming they can get done in the day, and they're like hoeing the ground and planting the seeds, and the lumberers walk off to the lumbering mill and do the chop trees down and come back and chop them up into firewood and all that kind of. It's like superbly done. And I just, there's got to be some kind of amalgamation. There is a game on the horizon. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the one called This Is My Land, or This Land Is My Land, something like that. About indigenous people in North America, and they're being oppressed and all that kind of thing. And I saw a brief glimpse of it in a video, and they had a thing where this is tutorial stuff, so it's not really much of a spoiler, but the fella playing the protagonist goes in to the camp, and so it's kind of like survival world type thing as well. And then there's some additional medieval dynasty style kind of management stuff to it. And he'd go in and you've got your braves or whatever, your village citizens. And he's like, oh, you can choose to arm them up or not, tool them up or not, and that kind of thing. Give them access to horses, yes or no. So if you've got 3 horses, you can say, look, take one of the horses, go get me some wood. And then you send them on like little quests to go out and do stuff, and you choose whether to give them tools, how far they go, how much danger, and that kind of thing. And then he like literally went into the village and he's like, do this and this mission, clicked OK, went back out, and then you watched and the Braves actually just got up from sitting by the campfire and just went over, got on a horse and got some tools and like rode out to go and start gathering materials. And it was like, wow, that's really cool. So
I like that because there are certain games that used to do that with, I think it was Mass Effect 3, where you could say, you could send teams out.
Right.
And then they could gather resources for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then X amount of hours later, they would come back with resources. But people have evolved on that idea where you suddenly end up with, oh, there's this amount of risk to it. Do you want to send someone who has this sort of speciality? That could also be cool, and to be able to do that. So yeah, I like this idea.
Yeah,
I do. But every game will do things differently.
Yeah,
and something that is a baller in one game might be very well solved in another. So it's hard to talk about pros and cons, but yeah, I think we pretty much kind of found what we want from all of these.
It's a cool topic, though. I get super excited about it.
It is. Like, building games are fun. They are. Speaking of games that are fun, and it's time for Know Your Role.
Yay!
Or something.
Still
need to make that jingle. I do have an electric piano behind me now, so I could I could probably go fiddle something out. That sounds wrong.
Yeah.
That's going to be a terms of service.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have a question in the Know Your Role category from Mari. What is your favorite role play class so far, and why?
You want to go first?
I mean, I can.
Yeah, go first.
I've talked and in classic kind of role playing games, we're talking Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons, and so on. I prefer to be able to go sneaky. I prefer the ability to observe and figure out before I go in. So a rogue or a dex-based fighter that is clad in like leather armor and so on. That's always a lot of fun. I love any sort of PC game that allows me to go super stealthy and try to sneak in and do it that way. It is fun, but in role playing games, I would have to say those. Although it's hard to beat a human fighter with a very big sword and a very big shield. There's something about the simplicity of it, you know? But I think being able to be sneaky has one thumb up over the sword and board kind of fighter. I'd say, and I don't know why. I think it has to do with my natural propensity to observe people, my natural way of looking at people before I make up my mind and kind of soaking up information, and doing that part before I go in and make a decision. I think it's that why.
There you go. Tiger's a rogue.
Yep, definitely. Also the ability to kind of go, stab, you are now dead, and then I disappear. So
I like it.
Yeah. How about you?
So for me, I love casters. I love the idea of magic. I I always hope, I guess, in some sort of child way, not in an insulting way, but just in some sort of, this is my wish, that the world somehow just turned out, like I wake up one day and the world just turned out to be magical. There was just something, we'd just forgotten it, or whatever it was. And I know that could all go horribly wrong, whatever, but like, you know, allow me my little positive good vibes fantasy for a second. I love the idea. So like wizards have always been a big favorite of mine, because I love that mixture of like this power and this kind of accidental recklessness that comes with it, like this want to for science things, or you know, experiment with things and explore and see what's possible and all that. I love that aspect to it. So wizards are kind of like my the feeling that I want to always play a wizard. But I've had some real fun, and I would like at some point to I've had the most fun playing wizards because I've tended to play wizards more often than the other classes. But I also want to explore at some point some kind of cleric, because I love the support element. I love being and this might sound a bit unusual, like abstract from it, but like it's a little bit like Skinny Pete or Ivan. A lot of my characters and things that I really enjoy the most are not in a mechanical sense, because I'm usually pretty like incapable in the games themselves, but in the sense of like in an RP setting, trying to be supportive and not entertaining for the sake of just like being in the middle of everything, but for facilitating other people relaxing and enjoying their time and telling their stories and everything, if that makes sense. So yeah. And a cleric always feels like it can lend itself to that, because you know, it's a little bit like you're the nerd cleric that no one really wanted to take you along, but we're all going to die if we don't have the cleric, so we better take the cleric. Damn it. So that kind of necessity, and then trying to ingratiate your character to the others and stuff, it sort of appeals to me. So yeah, that would be my other choice.
Clerics are fun. I can say that. I've had a few clerics out there that really end up being badass bosses, but yeah. But I don't know why, but anything that kind of fancies me, it's not the min-maxing. It's when you get the funky builds. You know, the crit focused ranged fighter. Like, hold on. What do you mean crit focus? Yeah, you know, building for crit, getting weapon enchantments, getting all the right feats to be as efficient with a bow as possible, and suddenly having a bow where you crit a lot with, and that triggers other effects. It's like, it might not be very efficient, but it's cool. And like you say, it's the community part of it for you with playing some of your roles, but I'm heavily towards the rule of cool is always fun, which is why, and I just want to point that out there to anybody going, oh, the new D&D movie looks stupid because Wild Jeb, you can't pick up owlbear. Rule of cool, bitches, shut up. Is it cool? Is it magic? Yes. Then sit down. That's how simple we're going to play it around here. If you want to wild shape into an owl bear, I'm going to allow you to wild shape into an owl bear. You don't have to have a deep philosophical reason. Now, by all means, I'm not going to allow the rogue to suddenly wild shape into an owl bear, but hey, that's for different reasons.
Yeah, I've always been very, creative with like people who want to play druids or shapeshifters or whatever, and said, look, as long as it's not overpowered, and if it is, we'll adjust it anyway. But like, you know, hell, if you want to turn into a werebear or an owlbear or whatever, that's cool. We can do it. Well, let's just work out what that means and how we sort of skin it and that. Because like you said, rule of cool, and just it's, you know, if it's good for the story. And it, you know, the most important thing is always to remember it's just a fun adventure for everyone, including the DM. So You can make stuff that just is fun. Who cares? What's not in the book? Like, and
yeah, no, like I'm leading a party where I have a feeling you are going to be making a guest appearance soon. But I did something for them where we have a homebrew artificer in a 3.5 setting. And artificer got introduced in, I think, 4.0 D&D. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I was sitting here, and since it's a low magic world, the artificer is kind of struggling because he mimics spells for his items.
Right.
And then as part of it, I now like Foaming Jetty plays our artificer. And to give him a bit more to work with, I've given him something that I call the Artificer's Coat, where it has small arms that helps him work as an artificer. So it helps him mimic spells quicker and build them into gadgets, grenades, and so on. And then it also seems to be able to make him help him make, hello brain, thank you, crossbow bolts. And one set of magic, for the loss of a different word, bolts will last until a new one is made. So once per day, I've said that he can craft 1d4 plus 1 amount of bolts for his crossbow, then mimic a spell randomly from a list of 10. And it's either magic missile, chill touch, ray of enfeeblement, burning hands, shocking grasp, true strike, which means that if he gets, let's say, 5 bolts of true strike, that adds plus 20 to his attack roll on that. Sleep, daze, divine favor, which would add a plus 1 on attack, damage, and so on. But also the last one is fireball. But these bolts have a 50% chance of casting fireball on impact, or when the bolt is shot.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So there's first a roll when he fires, and then there's another roll when it hits. Because they're currently in level 3, so having access to fireball is a bit. Yeah. So I might adjust the percentages as we go up in level, so that it actually makes sense to have access to that spell. But so I was sitting there thinking and kind of playing around with it. I was like, yeah, you know what? If I was an artificer, I'd enjoy this. I gave stuff to the others too, but it's more along with the original ideas of D&D. But
that's one of the things that can be super challenging. Is if I think I had a similar thing once where I was a wizard, funnily enough, and it wasn't a very magical setting, and it was like, oh, can't really do that much, or magic's broken or whatever, and it's like, well, what do I do then? Well, I don't know. You can do intelligence checks. Okay, and I was like, hey,
I'm really smart. I'm so smart.
You'd think I was so smart, I would have picked a better profession or a better class.
Yeah, no, I am having a lot of fun with that, and I do have a great way of bringing you in whenever you are ready to be a guest player. So that's going to be fun. But yeah, I think that covers our questions and thoughts from the community, with the exception of a comment from Mari on the last episode, or actually not the last episode, but the Stats Block episode. Mari says, this was a really nice insight into the life of a caster of World of Warships tournaments, and I enjoyed the input there. Also, a big fan of the artist badge, and I hope Stats figured out how to give the badge by now. And he probably did, and we can confirm he has. And and I would be all up for a system for people to choose their gender. I would fully welcome that. This podcast episode has helped me through my day cooking. Since I don't like to cook, kudos to you folks for keeping me good company and making a better experience. I love the RP segment, and hearing about StatsBloke's experience in these things is pretty cool on top of that. And yes, guest StatsBloke, yes, give me I wanna many hearts. And then she says, I think I will suggest to talk more about accessibility in games because I feel that is an important topic that is not talked about often. Your input on that would greatly interest me. And we did talk a bit about that in the editorial meeting. And we kind of figured out that we're not necessarily the best people to talk about accessibility, since we, like, outside of my kind of phobias, where I don't like spiders, like they creep me out, but it's not a super phobia. And my thalassophobia, it's like I can't really speak of anything. I don't have issues with color vision or anything. I don't know. Like, do you have anything that you would like to have as disability in games?
Yeah, so a similar sort of situation. I can't speak to it so much from firsthand. I appreciate some of the things that are there already. So some things that I suffer with, not to a severe degree, but things like sensitivity to like motion and movement. So things like motion blurs being able to be switched off, or even in some games more recently coming defaulted to being switched off. Well done. Those really help, you know, the V-syncs and stuff like that, where I can get just sensitivity headaches to movements and things that, you know, they're not really obvious, but my brain picks them up. So I appreciate things like that. But it also reminds me that there's probably plenty more. Some of the things that we've come into have been like, on dark side, we've met people that have light sensitivity issues. So there are big challenges there, because in some of those circumstances, you have things like how the games handle lighting can be a real difficult one. And there's and I really understand that would be difficult, because you want to make your game lighting and shading appeal to the masses, but sometimes there's specific circumstances where you can't, where that just doesn't work for people. So maybe that there's ways that can come in, or that exist out there that I'm just not aware of, about how to make adjustments there, rather than like the old school way was just like, here's a photosensitivity warning, we're done. And then off you go, and then there'd be a surprise somewhere in the game. So I think that the games industry seems to be kind of waking up, and there's a lot of people like Colo and others who are very vocal and can speak to specific requirements and needs. And like Beth, for example, Beth Freeman with disabilities and chronic pain and stuff like that, where you can talk about different controller types or voice commands and things like that, can be very helpful. I think that I feel like, but again, I hope this isn't my ignorance or something, but I feel like we're getting into a much more positive situation where it's becoming, you know, the norm to talk about and request and look for and also applaud when the efforts are made by developers to put those kind of features in place. But again, I you know, hopefully that is not, somebody's going to, you know, be like, "Oh, it's terrible," and what are you talking about, and all that. And so I freely admit I don't know enough about it. I'm not plugged into it sufficiently, but my feeling is that, and maybe it's more because I'm plugged into a lot more people and channels and whatnot that talk about all of these things and bring them into the foreground. And then Twitch has done a good job there as well, because they've brought a lot of folks with you know, disabilities and challenges and all sorts of things to more prominence, and highlighted games and events and things that really make that help raise the awareness and make that something that people can plug into and become a part of. So I feel like things are really moving in a positive direction, and I suppose it would be a nice opportunity for listeners to hit us up with some comments and give us some of your real life experiences. I know that we have members of the community with sort of varying degrees of color blindness, and you know, to mention just one example. So let us know how do things help. I mean, WoW's, for example, with the changes with all the little logos on the flags and all that kind of stuff. How is that working out? Is that helping? Because you've got symbols now as well as, you know, I think it seems to help me, and I don't have those specific issues per se, at least not that I'm aware of, but it helps me to see the logos and symbols, and I just hope they can be a little bit larger, a little bit easier to see, perhaps. Maybe that's an example where my eyesight as I get older is not what it once was. So
one thing I can say is that representation is important, but I feel the need to say that we do not need to make every adjustment available for everyone. So for instance, in World of Warships, there is no need to have a toggle for what gender you are. Like, that is not something they need to worry about. Like, let's look at what are some of the things that might happen. In World of Warships, there might be a need for, let's say, different control schemes, or color blindness, or maybe even the ability to turn down some of the sharper sounds. You know? Like, that just kind of muffles them slightly. Whereas in a game that shows off a character, being able to represent yourself with your gender might be a thing there, and so on and so forth. So not everybody needs to do everything. I want to point that out. That is not the point, because some people out there seem to think that the need for representation is because everybody needs to be seen. No, not everybody needs to be seen at every given moment. Right time, right place.
Yeah, I think context is very important. I agree. Yeah. I'm always I agree with you, and I'm very, very wary of kind of categorization for its own sake as well. I think that I love the inclusiveness that we achieve on Twitch and in the respective communities. I love that people can just be who they want to be as long as you're not hurting someone else, and including all aspects of it. I always worry about categories because I guess maybe I don't know, just the way I feel and the way my life experience has been. I'm just me. I'm not, you know what I mean? The categories, and I'm sure there's going to be some people that'll be like, well, you know, whatever, stereotypical 500-year-old heterosexual male, blah blah blah. But it's like, I again, that's just labels and categories. I'm just saying, like, as me, I want to meet you and express myself and have you express yourself, and hopefully we get along, and at the very least we don't hurt each other and we're just kind and compassionate, whether we get along or not, and that's it. So I always worry sometimes that there's a lot of the times, and this is not in any way criticizing anyone, I want people to express themselves, but I do worry sometimes that there's a lot of emphasis on categories and labels, and it's like, you're not that category, you're not that label. That if you choose that and that's cool, but like, and I guess WoW's a good example, but it's like, it kind of feels like that's very relevant to you, to your existence and your experience, and I'm happy for you to express it, but it also doesn't mean that everyone else has to, what am I trying to, I'm trying to get this across the right way. It's not that people should disregard that. That's not what I'm saying at all. Absolutely the opposite. They should respect it and accept it as a freedom of expression and your life experience. But I hope that people also can understand that you don't want to become that label, you know what I mean? Or the label become a prominent part of you or your experience. be yourself. You're an individual, not a category. So, but yeah, I think you've made a good point that they could easily be overdone, or even you could start calling people out or saying, "Oh, this game doesn't have this and this feature or whatever," and it's like, what's the deal with that? Like, yeah, but maybe it's not really applicable, or it doesn't have any particular relevance. What are we going to have next? It's a bit like the ships, right? Is it a he or a she or a they or a like? Well, how about it's just a ship? And if I say she, the ship's going down, she's going down. It doesn't matter. It's it's an object. And I always found it funny with the German language and a lot of the sort of Latin-based things, and historically with the like masculine, feminine, neuter, and all that kind of thing. I'm like, I used to have jokes with my partner here and say to her like, why isn't it just the toaster, as in it? Why is everything not just das? Das toaster, or just silly example, right, to make Mari laugh, hopefully. But like, why do we even have all of these other pronouns or whatever, or this enough gender's the right word in language, but why is that even a thing for like an object? Why aren't objects just objects?
Yeah.
always confused me.
She, my mobile phone. What? I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
But the flip side of it is that if you don't do that, sometimes it sounds really odd. I don't know if that's just a learned behavior thing, because you're used to hearing it this way, öffne die Tür. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's funny. I guess some of it's just, phonetics or how things sound to the brain and whether they're an appealing sound or not.
We have the same thing with on and in regarding to places in Norway.
Okay.
Because in Oslo, you're not on Oslo, but there are other places where you would be on, and that's usually if it's top or mountain or whatever involved in the name, and it's weird. But it doesn't have to be. Like, it's just as relevant to be there. I'm in this place. Yes, but it's not called in there. But it is, because I'm in the place, right?
Yeah.
And I think
you can't be in the mountain because what are you, a dwarf?
Yeah, there you go. No, but I wanted to say, like, somebody asked me if I ever thought about putting in the gender plugin so that people can identify. I was like, no, I don't feel the need for people to identify to me, unless I make a mistake and they tell me, oh, I'm this gender. Then I will correct myself and go, oh, sorry.
Yeah, you know what was interesting the other day that you mentioned that specific thing is Molly Berry has it, and I was just listening, like lurking and listening, and I thought it was fascinating the way she explained it and why she does have it running, and just the like in her experiences or whatever, because people can be obviously take these things very deeply personally and care about it a lot. So she does it because it's a way of embracing or recognizing, and therefore as she made an interesting point, which is like, somebody may be really stressed about this because a lot of life and government things and whatever are kind of built around the old school, there's just he and she and that's it kind of attitude. And I can see how that's, if you don't feel that way about yourself and your existence, I can see how that feels really kind of stressful and maybe derogatory or however you interpret it and feel about it. And I thought that was a very interesting point. Most of the time funnily enough these days, I just go with a they, them, or whatever, if I'm referring to like in the third person kind of thing. Because that then kind of fits and applies to anyone anyway, and then I go with a or I'm just referring to people by their handle, because I think you're a handle, and your handle feels more of an expression to me than a gender or a category. You know what I mean?
It's not like I'm an actual tiger, even though everybody calls me tiger. But yeah, no, that's I love that people use it, but at the same time, I'm not gonna sit here and force people to use it, because some people might not want to, and that's fine. But that's also why I don't use it, because I honestly don't care. If I misgender you, let me know. I'll correct it, and that's on me. I'm not gonna make it to any point and to actively try to misgender anyone. That would be a dick move. It allows for others to see how you identify, and that could potentially make you a target. And I don't want to enable that. But there are other places that will be good and good enough to kind of prevent that from happening. But I don't want to enable that, because we're not really set up in that way. But that's beside the point. Anyway, I think we're roughly around 2 hours mark, just over, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think we were getting close, but I think we're pretty good on the time as well. So
yeah, just a bit of a stutter there. For anybody wondering why I'm suddenly confused about the time, is I had a blue screen. Yay! Which means it's the 4th blue screen in a very short amount of time. So that's great. I hope the recording isn't completely borked. Anyway, we do have a recording over on Grumbles' side too, so that's good. Good. See, I had a feeling. I had a weird feeling.
And it was good that we prepped for it.
Yeah. Okay. Moving swiftly along, since we now had a natural break in things. Even though I tried to pick it up where we left off. We are just going to move on into something to smile about. And I'm just going to jump straight in.
Go for
it. My girlfriend is coming back here, and it's been such a long time since we've seen each other, so that's good. I was of course hoping that I would be able to go see her during the summer because of my new job, but you know, coming out of being a long time of bad economy, it's suddenly kind of okay, I have to pay a little bit of time to correct things and get ahead so that I can then do these things. So I was hoping to be able to visit her in June already, but that was a bit too soon. But hey, it does mean that we do get my brother is also visiting for a couple weeks. My brother Paul and Mr. Cthulhu will be here for 4 or 5 days too.
Nice.
So that's gonna be fun.
Awesome.
And I just thought of another thing that has made me smile recently.
Oh yes.
And it is the fact that I've started working on and completing the redemptions for the charity of the auction, the charity auction.
Nice.
So I've sent care packages to Punky, which has waited over a year for hers. I'm so glad she's patient, and I would be tearing out my hair if it was anybody else. I sent one to Dutch, who made a huge contribution during the charity. He's also getting a poster, which should be arriving soon. And I finally started gathering pieces and stuff to complete the hammer for Miss Bunny. So it now has a wonderful base coat, which has covered imperfections and so on. And I've got some I have some really nice paint for the airbrush, which I'm gonna work on it to create some magic effects. Yeah, no, it's awesome. It feels good. It feels good to do that and finally start to give these things out. And I also made an intro or a little jingle for Aquila, kind of like we had for JT for a while. We have now one for Aquila, since he bid on that during the auction.
Awesome. So yeah, that's a really good feeling. Yeah.
You know, it's very nice to be able to start doing that and to be able to give people progress on it. So, yeah, those have been big things for me to smile about.
And that's really cool, because obviously very personal and also involving the community as well. So that's really cool to hear. My ones are, as it says there, Grumbles appreciates art. I do appreciate art. I always have done in my life. I've never understood it, and I've never been any good at it or much good at it, but I really appreciate it. And I'm so very fortunate to have met quite a few very talented and capable people, especially through the streaming life, as it were. And we've got a community member by the name of Mims, who's been doing mostly pro bono work, just saying, hey, can I draw something for you? I'm like, look, I don't want to take advantage. No, I really want to draw something. I'm like, look, are you sure? Like, I'm bored. Give me something to draw. I drew this thing. Right, shut up. No more. So bless you, Mims. And she's been providing all sorts of little bits and pieces for like all of our Port Shiny logo work. So I had this idea with Port Shiny when we were throwing names out with the group and what should we call ourselves, and I wanted to make the most positive spin in on the Atlas and the restart after all the meta and some of the stress from last time. I was like, let's have a really super positive branding and a positive kind of message and to bring across and all that. And just one day I was like, let's have a little sunshine, a little sun that's like super happy. So I found one on like some copyright site that I use, copyright free site, sorry, whoops, that I utilize and sometimes make some adaptations to and everything. And I found like this happy little sun logo, and we started with that. And then Mims was like, would you mind if I drew something? I was like, sure. And next thing you know, we've got about 7 or 8 pieces of artwork that feature a really beautiful, cute, happy sun that Mims drew. That is, and then like there's one for the garden. There's one for where it's like watering can and watering flowers. There's one for like the blacksmith where it's with an anvil and hammer and stuff and various different.
They are so great.
I know, they're so cute, right? So, and then I just do the little bit of work to put them on sails and put some words around them to make them about the port and stuff, right? So that's one of my thing. And then to cap it all off, out of the blue on yesterday's stream, Mims was like, oh, I've done you a little gift in the Discord. Go to the Discord. I don't know if you've seen this yet. I'll send you it afterwards so you can see it in all its glory. She did a really high quality picture of Pete, a portrait of Pete. Aww. Sitting on a chair, painted chair, with all the colors of his uniform as he appears in the game, but like really nicely drawn and really super artistic and everything. Not that I'm saying Atlas could do with an optimization, and it is quite horrible to look at sometimes. Anyway, so you do the segues and I do the callbacks to the linking things back to what we already. And this picture is just stunning, and I'm very grateful and humble to just get something like that as a gift. And on top of that, the other day we were talking, and one of our buddy streamers, Mr. Dubbers, Dub53, came in, and he was just like, struggling a little bit, mental health, and was brave enough to share that, and just, kind of like, sorry, I can't be around, and I can't do the Atlas thing at the moment. I'm just kind of like fed up with it, and really not in a good space. So kudos to Dub for sharing, and I appreciate that, and the way he did it, because he wasn't just coming and going, here's a big tirade about, and that kind of thing, where we're not medical health professionals, and we can't, we can try and embrace you and give you a hug, but there's limits to what we can do, and that's why we provide access to resources and links and things. But he did it in a really good way, and everybody tried to like give him some good vibes and help pick him up. And while we were talking about it, our emote and channel artist Rajira, who I met through art and dark side and all that and role playing and that, she heard the messages and talking about the mental health and all that, and it was a message that was close to her heart too. And she just made me a Jenkins and Crumbs the cat hugging with a heart kind of thing and pressing their faces against each other. Classic, like Jenkins grabbing the cat and like hug, whether the cat wants it or not. Yeah. And it's just super cute. Yeah, exactly. Just super cute artwork, and again, just donated it to the channel and said, "Here you go. I loved the message about mental health and taking care of yourselves and others around you. Here's an emote for the community."
That's very nice.
Yeah, so that really warmed my heart as well, made me smile, and it was beautiful to be able to throw that one out there yesterday and today. And there you go. You can come and get some hugs now. And I kind of always had that feeling of like something was missing in the lineup, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's cool. So now we got a hug.
Yay!
Yay!
And that seems like a very good place to end on. To say it's okay to not be okay, and everybody can have a hug. Yep. I feel like that's a good message.
It is.
We will be rounding off this episode now and saying thank you to everybody for listening in on our ranting once again. Again, I want to point out, if you have any topics that you want us to talk about, our Discord or the YouTube channel for where we have our information is the best place to do that. And like questions, comments, feedback, whatever, get it in there.
Yep.
We will we thrive on this sort of information. So thank you, Grumbles, for
thank you too,
joining
my friend.
me on yet another tour through the port. It's always good to sit down and do these.
Yeah, agreed.
And without further ado, it's been great, and that's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Grumbles.
Good vibes, everyone.
The next to the port. And the next episode. Bye.
Bye.